Welcome to Buzzworthy Businesses. I'm your host, Chris Budihas, and joining me here in the studio is David Permenter with Generation Media.
Good to see you,
David,
sir.
How you doing? Good to see you. Thanks for joining me here.
Always a pleasure.
And then we got Dr. Tim Conway with NOW Programs.
That's it, 100%.
It's good to see you. Hey, thanks for
Chris.
coming in.
My pleasure.
So tell us a little about yourself and what is NOW Programs?
Well, by training, I'm a brain scientist called a neuropsychologist.
Yeah.
And dyslexia doesn't run in my family, it gallops. So I've been involved in dyslexia familial for my whole life.
Yeah.
But I actually got early intervention at age 5, and I then studied with my aunt, Patricia Lindemood, who was a speech pathologist, who built a very novel methodology for treating the core causes of dyslexia at a very young age. So then we built that out now to an ed tech program called NOW Programs. And we called it that because we'll get you reading now, we'll get you spelling now, we'll change your writing skills now, and we can change your math skills now. We have 4 programs online that are globally provided.
Wow, that's amazing. Wow.
That is incredible.
No.
And I've been to his facility.
Oh, have you?
The Morris Center. It's remarkable. It's miraculous, the work that they're doing. There's nothing like it. I think in the world, there's nothing like it.
It's the only truly transdisciplinary healthcare team focused on children with any type of developmental difficulties. Dyslexia, autism, Down syndrome, dysgraphia, dyscalculia, all different learning difficulties. The Morris Center Clinic in Ponte Vedra Beach or Ocala, or ironically, in the Caribbean, in the country of Trinidad and Tobago.
Okay.
That's where the 3 of them exist right now. And they provide really high intensity, high powered one-on-one treatments. They'll make about 1 to 2 grade levels of gain in reading skills in 4 weeks.
Wow.
So for every 4 weeks, we're gonna make 1 to 2 grade levels of change. And I talk about reading skills because that's the most prominent learning difficulty in the world.
So how much of a problem is this? Because you see on TV, right? They talk about it. I'm not sure if it was an issue back, when I was growing up or when my parents were growing up. We just didn't talk about it, and now we talk about it more. Do you see environmentally, maybe as a result of COVID, an exponential increase in these areas?
Well, we saw 2 things happen with COVID.
Yeah.
One, parents were sitting in the house online working from home. Johnny's sitting at the computer online doing school, and for the first time the parents are hearing how poorly Johnny's reading.
Yeah.
But he has like a B in reading, or he has like an A in reading, and it kind of showed that the emperor has no clothes. It unveiled that this is not accurate. So that helped make parents more aware of the struggle. Okay. And then 2, we know that most kids in the world who struggle to read, it's 1 out of 5 children. So it's about 20%.
Wow.
Unless you compare dyslexia in a different way. That's if you just look at their ability to sound out words. If you look at their reading comprehension to see how much are they understanding versus their listening comprehension, how much are they comprehending by listening. If your reading and listening comprehension are not on the same level and listening is higher than reading, that's going to be a dyslexia. The dyslexia is affecting your comprehension. That's actually 1 out of 3 people.
Wow,
so it's a massive problem. It's global, not related to gender. It's not really more boys and girls. It's like 1.2 to 1, pretty much just almost 1 to 1. Doesn't matter what your race is, your ethnicity, or your SES. It's not more prevalent in low-income families than high-income. Just high-income families cover it up better because they can buy tutoring.
Of those 1 out of 3, how many are actually diagnosed or aware of the problem?
Yeah, diagnosis is not as common. Schools are not designed to do diagnosis. They're really focused on categorizing you. Are you categorized as meeting the criteria of a kid who gets special ed? So a lot of kids go undiagnosed, and schools just try to compensate and accommodate. And it's kind of like they're going to say they're going to give you crutches for the broken leg.
Right.
We're not really going to get you to the orthopedist who figures out how to set the bone and get you back to 100%.
Right.
We're going to get by with crutches. That's really what a school's typical design is. So then many people, David, I don't think we even have a number on it, do not actually get diagnosed. But there's only 3 criteria. We have a manual that all professionals are supposed to follow.
Right.
And if you meet one of these 3 criteria, you meet the diagnosis of dyslexia. It's poor reading accuracy, or poor reading speed, or poor reading comprehension, and that's it.
Yeah.
There can be other co-occurring difficulties, but those 3 things, that's the medical and the professional criteria for diagnosing dyslexia.
I have a question, if I may. You take a dyslexic child who can't read 4 weeks, 8 weeks, however long, they learn to read. Have they been cured of their dyslexia, or have they just overcome one element of it?
Yeah, great question. We typically don't use the word cure because we're not going in and doing gene therapy. They still have the dyslexia genetics. And I get the fun job of telling kids who are 10, 12, or adults who are 45, do you know who you can blame for your reading problems? And they look at me like, who? I'm like, and they usually say, my teacher. No, not the teacher's fault. The teachers are doing their best to get you reading with whatever methods they've got.
Yes, sir.
I said, it's your mom and dad. It's genetic. It runs in families. So the kids look at mom or dad. Usually mom goes, it's his family. And point to the other.
Wow.
So it's just the genetics that cause it to be passed on. So we're not doing gene therapy, so we don't say it's cured. But we know that we can change those reading skills so much that you don't meet criteria for a deficit in accuracy or a deficit in fluency or a deficit in comprehension. If you don't meet those criteria, you have to remove the diagnosis. So we see the diagnosis taken away, and we did 1 and 2 year post-treatment follow-up studies in our NICHD. It's called randomized controlled trials research. Big name for saying we built penicillin with randomized controlled trials.
Oh, wow.
It's the caliber of science that says penicillin is great for strep throat, but in other randomized controlled trials, they found out it's not great for ear infections. So they use a different antibiotic for ear infections than they use for strep throat. That's what randomized controlled trials help you figure out. So from those randomized controlled trials, we know that we've got the best chance of closing the gap on those skills. And 1 year after we do the treatment, and 2 years after we do the treatment, your skills just keep getting stronger and stronger.
And after a child goes through this treatment, they learn to read.
Yeah.
It's remarkable.
Yeah.
Has it also affected other areas of their cognition or
Absolutely.
math or other things?
100%. In fact, interesting you mentioned math, because math is actually a foreign language. So it's like learning Spanish. There's a certain vocabulary of math that doesn't exist in any other field. So we typically, in the nowprograms.com online platform for doing treatment, math is the last program we would offer. Because you've got to build the reading and spelling skills first, build the comprehension skills next, the actual language processing, sequential, the reasoning that's required for writing and composition, that comes third, math comes last. But in our NICHD study on just dyslexia with 8 to 10 year olds, we measured math skills just to see what happened if we just changed reading skills. And the kids improved in math because part of math testing is word problems. If you misread the problem, you can't do the math. So just by changing literacy skills, you give a higher trajectory for faster vocabulary growth, better interpersonal communication, and you see a dramatic change in self-esteem.
Because
they don't
my next question. Self-esteem must be off the charts.
That's got to be, right? It's funny. That fully explains why I failed Algebra 2 in high school. So, and I'm going to blame my dad's family. There you go.
There's the genetics.
So not that we're necessarily in competition, but other folks in this space, again, you kind of alluded to it earlier, but I want to call it out for our audience. Like, what is your value proposition, or what's your competitive advantage? What are you doing different that they're not doing?
I'm a brain scientist in the healthcare professions. My colleagues, developmental behavioral pediatrician, speech pathology, occupational therapist, clinical psychologist, all are healthcare brain scientists. We at the Morris Center, which opened in 1986, I joined it in 1989 as an undergrad, and I bought the corporation in 2008. We started doing small-scale studies in the 90s. We weren't trying to sell anything. We didn't have a program to sell. We were just trying to build these services and figure out what could we do as a small clinic. And so we did all the science first, and then in 2013, about 10 years after we'd published all the studies, then I opened the nowprograms.com company, and it's coming with a solid base of science that proves the program's highly effective.
That's awesome.
All of our competitors are typically educators or some well-intentioned dyslexic person who figured out a compensatory approach, a way to work around the deficits. But you're always going to have less gain if you don't really treat the cause of the problem, and you're just kind of trying to address the symptoms.
Yes, sir.
And some folks even say, well, we don't need to read in today's world. We got this pen, and drag the pen around. Well, that doesn't go so well. Yeah, we have AI. But none of that works so well when you're driving down the road on the interstate trying to read the street signs. You're trying to read the interstate signs. I mean, you need reading skills functional to really have what we call the joie de vivre. That's the joy of life.
That's great. So how do folks find Now Program?
Very simple, nowprograms.com.
That's awesome.
That's our website. We offer free consultations to parents. We will actually meet with them, talk with them. We'll look at their test scores with them. I have 5 staff in my intake team who give free consultations to parents all over the world to help them understand what's going on, what we would suggest you do about it, and what's the rationale for those suggestions, meaning what science backs up what we're going to do. And then we don't stop there. We say, you know what? We have a private
there's more.
Facebook group. Yeah, that's right.
By today.
2 for the price of 1. There's a private Facebook group called NOW Programs, Advice, Support, and Praise. And I've got about 1,500 parents in that private Facebook group.
Wow.
And if you don't, or you're not sure as a parent about that we're the right fit, go join that Facebook group. And with the NOW Programs, Advice, Support, and Praise, talk to parents who've already done it.
Wow.
And they can tell you what's happened to their kid and where's their kid 1 year later. We've been doing this so long, we get kids that are 5 years later, 10 years later.
Sure.
From the Morris Center Clinic, we have kids that are 20, 30, and almost 40 years later now, that they can tell you how it changed their trajectory and gave them the opportunity to choose their goal, not left them limited to try to pick what they might be able to do.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And David, how do folks find Generation Media?
Yeah, well, the easiest way would just be to go to our website, generationmedia.net, and from there there's many ways to reach out to us.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Jen, what we're going to do is take your contact information. We're going to put it in our show notes. That way our audience can take a look at each of your organizations and reach out to you as appropriate. So, folks, if you like what you heard, please share us, connect with us on LinkedIn and all other forms of social media. A great message out there. Who doesn't want to take care of folks that are having these issues, which are treatable, right? Especially at a young age. So we got to definitely attack this as a society, and it's really a global issue. So I appreciate Dr. Conway coming in to talk about NOW programs. So that's great. If you like what you heard, share us with your friends, and we'll see our next segment, Live with Gratitude.